Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mayday Network. I'm Michelle Kinney. That's Julie Roginski, and this is the Daily Dispatch, where we bring you stories that we think you should know about or care about. And Julie is coming to us live from the great city of Boston today. She's not in a hostage situation. She's in a hotel room.
A hotel room with my dog, who I had to
I know, with Maggie the dachshund.
Yes.
We gotta have a theme song for Maggie, I think. Like my dad texted me yesterday and said that he thought we should do some sort of rendition of Maggie May or something.
Oh, well, Maggie Mayday, of course.
Yeah. Look at how cute she is.
Very cute.
Well, I would love to know what Maggie thinks about the topic that we are bringing to all of you today, which is that Tucker Carlson announced yesterday that he quits the GOP. And I know that you have very specific feelings about this. I do too, or at least ideas or theories about this. And just a matter of hours later, seems as though Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out and said the same thing, which is very telling about the future of MAGA 2.0, which we have been saying for quite some time is going to be the America First movement that's going to rise from the ashes of MAGA.
Well, it's interesting, Michelle, because of all the things that he said that they are enthralled to Israel, the Republicans, and that's why he's out. And of course, it's no surprise that Space Lasers Green is out too. And look, there's a horseshoe effect here because you have there are elections happening in New York City today for Congress across many congressional districts, but the three that I'm thinking of specifically, where the only difference between the candidates is being highlighted that it is the state of Israel, where they stand on that. And so it's miraculous to me that on both sides of the aisle, you have these extremes who are basically leaning into this whole Israel thing as though it is the only thing on earth. And wherever you stand in Israel is where you stand in Israel. But let's be very clear here that if you're speaking out against what you're seeing and considering to be genocide in Gaza, not saying a word about the billions of dollars that we are just handing over to the Iranians, who are the biggest state sponsors of terrorism in the world and are committing genocide against their own people.
Or Russia. I mean, it's like Russia. We're
not giving money to Russia, but we are giving money to Saudi Arabia. Which billions in military aid to Saudi Arabia, which has killed at least 100,000 women and children in Yemen. Not a word about that. You might wonder whether this really has something less to do with Israel than it does with the Jews. And, that's a hill I'm going to die on. And ultimately, what you're seeing with Tucker happening today and what you're seeing happening on the left with the DSA, which instead of leaving the Democratic Party has decided they're going to take over the Democratic Party, God bless. But I mean, what's going to end up happening is that both parties are going to go and be hijacked by the extremes, which is going to mean that people who've dedicated their lives to each of these parties, whether it's the Never Trumpers who are going to leave the party in droves as the Tuckers of the world take over,
which they already have when Trump did.
Right. But it's going to get even worse. Or the or the people like me who've dedicated their life to the Democratic Party. I'm not sticking around if this is where the party's going to go. And so ultimately, I think we have to understand that you're about to create a huge coalition of people who are going to be politically homeless. And before that happens on the Democratic side, I couldn't care less what happens to the Republicans. But before that happens on the Democratic side, I think we need to have a serious conversation about it because it's not even a joke. I mean, I wrote a column today effectively calling out AIPAC. I mean, I said AIPAC needed to disband. I mean, that's how critical I was of AIPAC. And on my way to saying that, nevertheless, don't confuse what you're seeing right now of being like, but AIPAC, about being AIPAC, because AIPAC's become shorthand for other things.
Apex's just been shorthand for Jew. I mean, like, let's be real.
Right.
Anything that anybody doesn't like anymore, or is angry about politics, or the state of the country, or affordability, or whatever it is, you see APAC or Zionism somewhere in the comments. And it's like the obsession about this has become so insane. And I say this as non-Jew, watching this from the outside, looking and going, what is happening? Is there nothing else that anyone is worried about? Not to say that this isn't something to be upset about, what's happening in Gaza. Absolutely. But it requires context and nuance. Like, this is not a black and white, this or that issue. It's an extremely complicated situation. And what has happened is this sort of, throwaway language that I wonder how many people actually know what they're saying or what they're doing, or if, like, I really wonder, because I don't think that everybody knows what they're doing, but they certainly just kind of seem okay with it. You try to call it out, like, they get really, really angry. And I'm very, very, very concerned about just people that are even just my friends in the progressive space, like, watching what's happening. It's really, really disturbing.
Let me say this. Rama, what is her name? The Zora Mandani's wife.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I should know.
Okay. Well, anyway, the first lady of the city of New York, Rama Duwaji, who's like 25 or something. She's very young, 28.
Yeah.
She puts out a thing on Instagram today. Now, Zora Mandani is making a push in 3 races, right?
Yeah.
One in, I'm going to generalize this, one in Queens, one in Upper Manhattan, where you are, Michelle, and one in, and also I believe parts of the Bronx, and one in downtown Manhattan / Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
And 2 of them are against incumbents. Adriana Espiat, in where you are, Michelle, Dan Goldman, which is the Brooklyn Lower Manhattan seat, and one that's an open seat for Nydia Vasquez's district, which she's vacating. There are 3 people running against the people that I just mentioned, who he's endorsed. One is Claire Valdez, one is Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier, and one is Brad Lander. Now, the First Lady of New York just puts out an Instagram saying, today's the day, NYC, vote Claire for New York and Darlisa for New York, but doesn't mention Brad Lander.
Gee, I wonder why that.
I wonder why.
Is it because Brad Lander's a Jew?
There's no other reason that I can think of. I wonder why. Brad Lander, who deserves to lose purely for the fact that he has completely sold out everything he's ever believed in to try to get this congressional seat, but that's neither here nor there. So, look, before we get to Tucker, I want to just say that this is a problem on both sides of the aisle. And I don't want to both sides of it because...
Right. I mean, there is obviously one extreme. I mean, like, there's a real extreme that started earlier on the right.
That started earlier, and it's very different. It's very different, right? Very, very different. Their anti-Semitism versus the anti-Semitism on the left. Let's be very clear. The reason Tucker Carlson has cited for leaving the Republican Party is that he believes that Donald Trump is in thrall to the Jews.
And Julie, I want to ask you, just for our audience, like, can you just give a little bit of background? Because for anybody who's joining us for the first time or maybe isn't aware, is that Julie worked at Fox News for many years and worked with Tucker Carlson, and you have had many conversations with him about maybe some of the prejudices and things that he has, and what has he said about certain groups of people?
I mean, let's be very clear. So I'm going to tell this story because I've told it before. So for people who've heard it, I apologize. Election night 2012, I'm sitting in the green room with Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham. Barack Obama wins. Laura Ingraham storms off in a huff. So now it's me and Tucker. It's late night. Tucker is not very happy for obvious reasons. Says to me, do you want to go into the bathroom and smoke something? I said, I think he was talking about cigarettes because he was a cigarette smoker at the time.
Yeah.
I said, no, thank you. I don't smoke. And P.S. I have no reason to want to be smoking anyway. I'm very happy that Barack Obama won. Comes back from smoking. And he sits down, and Tucker and I always had a very cordial relationship. And I said, listen, Tucker, like, you guys, and how naive was I? This is 2012. You guys are never going to win until you stop demonizing Latinos and talking about how they're all criminals. And he looks at me and he goes, but Julie, they are all criminals. And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, yes, they are bringing drugs over the border and all the crime and blah, blah, blah. And I said, Tucker, I go, you sound like people in the 1920s who said that Catholics were bringing crime into the country.
Right.
At which point Tucker Carlson said to me, but they did. We didn't have crime in this country till the Catholics came here. And I said, what? And he said, yes, the Irish with their whiskey and the Poles with their vodka and the Italians with their mafia. We didn't have anything like real crime until they all came here. And I said, Tucker, how old are you? And at that point, Tucker was in his probably early to mid 40s.
Yeah.
And whatever age he was, I'm going to make this up, as he's 44. And I said, Tucker, I have literally never heard anybody speak this way in my life. Like, this is what I read about in the history books about, like, why the second Ku Klux Klan, like why the second iteration of the Ku Klux Klan, which was not even anti-Black. The first iteration was after the Civil War, because obviously that's what they were set up to do. But the second iteration of the Ku Klux Klan didn't even have to be anti-Black, because Black people were so repressed at the time, suppressed at the time, that they were really anti-Catholic in the 1920s. And they really fought very hard against the Catholic migration. They really didn't like it, and so on and so forth. So I'm saying all of this purely to say that this is who we're dealing with here. He's not just anti-Semitic. He's not just racist against Black people or Latinos. I mean, he literally was anti-Catholic. Yeah. Or was,
yes. He's anti anybody who didn't come off the Mayflower. Right. And the thing is, and I say this as someone whose family on both sides equally come from olden times, have been here since 1600 something. And also my people come from Europe and are Catholic and Irish and German and all the things. And that's the great thing, right, about America. And is that there are people of all backgrounds from all over the world, and people come here and, you know, look for a better life or a better way of life. And the Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Charles Lindberghs of the world, are not okay with this. They don't like it. They want the United States of America to be a white Christian male country. And for anybody who thinks, you know, because I have seen this, a lot of like more progressive accounts, like creators online, sharing clips of Tucker Carlson, because he very conveniently says things that maybe agree with some of our anti-Trump points of view, right? And it's like, oh, wow, Tucker's making sense here. Tucker has Nick Fuentes on his podcast. Nick Fuentes is a white Christian nationalist who is a Holocaust denier, hates Jews, hates Black people, hates immigrants, and certainly hates women. He's had Joel Webben on. Joel Webben is an ultra white Christian nationalist pastor who openly talks about how women should not have the right to vote. These are the people that Tucker Carlson platforms, because these are the people that Tucker Carlson agrees with. Now, I've seen some theories out there that have been talking about Tucker Carlson, you know, pulling his support from the GOP. Oh, he's just trying to make money. He just wants clicks. I think that's some of it. But the overarching strategy here is 2028. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, Carlson, aligned. They are aligned on knowing exactly where Trump isn't going, because Trump's not going to live much longer. Let's be real. He's 80 years old and he looks like shit. So they need to know what's going on next. And that is the America First stance. That is what is going on here. And, you know, Tucker Carlson is a silver spoon up his ass rich kid who has never had to go without, but he has been rejected in his life from the CIA, which he wanted to be a part of, from, you know, his mother left them.
Every job he's ever had. Listen, Tucker Carlson is a reject. Let's be very clear. Tucker Carlson got fired from CNN, then he got fired from MSNBC, then he got fired from Fox, and now he's got his own thing going. And finally, Tucker understands he can't be fired from anywhere, but he has to really lean into the worst of the worst. And by the way, for people who are asking why my camera is blurry, I am so sorry. I am at a hotel room in Boston with really shitty Wi-Fi, and so that's why I look the way I look. Sorry about that. But look, I'm trying to be very clear, and I think Michelle and I were, Michelle was getting to this point. You said this. This is not about Tucker leaving the GOP. This is about Tucker taking over the GOP, and he's going to do it.
Yes.
He's going to do it.
Yes. And I think that also, like, the thing that I hear on the left is what happened already on the right and is getting worse on the right. And that is, listen, we have a shared goal of these things, A, B, C, D, E, F, that we want to happen, and that's on our side, affordability, packing the court, like whatever these things are, right? And you run on these in like a newer or fresh outsidery way in which you give people a choice, something maybe that feels more exciting, something that makes you feel more invigorated. And you have to then excuse some of the other bad things you don't like, the things that you normally would never support. Whether that be disgusting anti-Semitic tweets online, or whether it's, talking about interracial marriages or whatever it is, which, by the way, a candidate who is from the DSA, who is challenging Adriana Espaillat in my district, has a history of doing. We're being asked to excuse these things for a common goal. And at what point are we going to do that and become the Tea Party in 2010? Because that was the beginning of the end for them.
But it's not even excusing, friends. We're now making shit up. We are having candidates make shit up. For instance,
tell us about that.
I got an email from a candidate named Adam Hamawi, who is running in the 12th Congressional District of New Jersey in support of Daria-Liza Villa-Chevalier, the woman Michelle just talked about, who is a she has a whole host of very interesting views. She celebrated the massacre on October 7th before Israel even set foot in Gaza.
And attended a rally on October 8th in Midtown Manhattan that Brad Lander, who is one of the candidates that the woman that you had talked about earlier, the First Lady of New York, did not mention that her husband had endorsed. So he condemned that rally.
Now he's in ads with her, which is amazing. But which is why Brad Lander deserves to lose, because he has no fucking
he's a windsock.
Yeah. But anyway, this guy, Adam Hamawi, sent a fundraising email on behalf of Daria-Liza Villa-Chevalier. And this is what he wrote. Now, to put in perspective, Adam Hamawi won the primary for Congress in the 12th Congressional District. Okay, she's barking.
Which is Bonnie Watson Coleman's district, correct?
Bonnie Watson Coleman's district.
Right.
And excuse me while I find this dog. She doesn't bark. Anyway, so he wrote, with an outpouring of support from people like you, our campaign won the Democratic nomination for Congress in New Jersey 12, defeating a dozen candidates, including some AIPAC and corporate-backed opponents. And then he goes on to say, when the establishment and their super PACs threw millions of dollars against us, the people stepped up. Now, friends, I just want to be very clear. Every part of that is a lie. Every single part of that is a lie. But apparently you have to throw the word AIPAC in there somewhere, because God forbid you actually run things that people care about, like Medicare for all and a more unrigged economy and all of that. No. You got to go against AIPAC. Like AIPAC is where we're talking about, right? So I just want to go line by line here. Okay. With an outpouring of support from people like you, I'm getting this email. I certainly did not support him. Our campaign won the Democratic nomination for Congress in New Jersey 12. That's true. Defeating a dozen candidates, including some AIPAC and corporate-backed opponents. I don't know who he is talking about. AIPAC did not endorse in that race.
And they didn't insert themselves into that race at any point.
Yes. As for corporate-backed opponents, I don't know who that is either, because as far as I know, nobody there took a penny in corporate PAC money. Now he goes on to say, when the establishment and their super PACs threw millions of dollars against us, the people stepped up. Friends,
That didn't happen.
Not one penny, never mind millions of dollars in super PAC money or by the establishment was spent against Adam Hamawi. Not one dime. There was not one penny of negative advertising against him.
Yeah.
Not one. Not one. And who is the corporate back? Who's the AIPAC backed opponent here that he's talking about? Is it the Jewish man, Brad Cohen, who came in second to him because AIPAC didn't back him? You know how I know this?
Nope.
I was Brad Cohen's consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Neither AIPAC nor its super PAC came in and spent a dime against Adam Hamawi. So much so that the Jewish community was wondering after the election was over why they didn't, because Adam Hamawi, in addition to being a liar, apparently, also is somebody who in his previous iteration was in the inner circle of a man named Omar Abdel Rahman. You might know him as the blind sheikh, the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. And when anybody would ask him about that, and again, nobody spent a dime, not AIPAC, not corporate interests, not the establishment, nobody going negative on this guy. But when reporters would ask him what the hell he was doing hanging out with the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, Adam Hamawi's response was, that's Islamophobic. It's Islamophobic to ask. Really? But it's not anti-Semitic to invent some grand conspiracy by a Jewish organization to come after him when none did?
Right. And the thing about it, it's so frequent, it's so over the top, it's so like calculated and that it doesn't even give people like us the chance to say, and also AIPAC sucks. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Is like,
I said it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I wrote, just so you know, I wrote a column about this today, which is not paywalled, and I invite everybody to go on Substack and read it because I didn't paywall it because I want.
Yeah, I sent it to some people, some consultants today.
Yeah, and in that column, I am very clear, and I say, by the way, I hate AIPAC, and this is what I write, and I want to be very clear. This is literally a direct quote from this column. Quote, from where I sit, I, Julie Roginski, sit, AIPAC has been a harmful force in democratic politics recently, and it should consider disbanding. It has become completely subservient to Donald Trump's donors and the whims of an extremist Israeli government. Whatever bipartisan bona fides it had enjoyed in previous years are now gone, and they are never coming back, largely because of AIPAC's own decision-making. And do you know what response I got, Michelle? Why are you defending AIPAC? Why are you saying that if you criticize AIPAC, you're anti-Semitic?
That's all I hear. That's all they hear.
I just criticized AIPAC, you complete and utter morons.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back. Keep talking because the dog is
eating stuff. Well, listen, I mean, in my own district, right? I mean, I don't know whether or not AIPAC is running ads for Espaillat or against Chablayer, but it's, you know, it's beside the point. Like there is so much dog whistling that's going on right now, and nobody wants to hear it or admit that it's happening. And that is a very dangerous place to be. And, you know, I really kind of backed away from, you know, not like talking about it, but like being, you know, so overt about calling people out about this. But I've gotten a lot louder lately, and people have gotten mad at me. I know I've watched some of my friends unfollow me on Instagram and other places. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? Come for me. The DSA people have been coming at me on Threads and all kinds of other places. And I'm like, I don't care. I am sick of y'all. You guys are not on the same team as us. Not really. Like, you guys are here to burn it all down to the ground and take over. These are the kind of people who have no interest in governing, and they certainly have no interest in representing all the people of their districts. And, you know, it's a really crazy place to be, and to even have to say out loud, please don't vote for these people because they said all of these horrible things. And the last poll I saw had Espaillat up by 8. I'm like, that's not enough. That is not enough. He should be up by double digits, but he's not. And it's because Espaillat is kind of he's like a do nothing. And I'll say this as somebody who's lived in this district for a long time. I've been waiting for somebody to come along and primary him. I've been waiting because I'm like, oh my God, this guy doesn't do anything. We need people who are willing to fight. We need new leadership in Washington. We need all of these things. But y'all, this is not the answer. This is not it. This is not what you think it is. And we're in a really dangerous place. Because you know what? I look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, however people feel about Bernie Sanders here in the chat or wherever else, or in the comments where people are going to yell at me later. He's the kind of person who doesn't like one tiny thing in a bill and he says no. These are not people who are interested in governance, like actual legislating, trying to make people's lives better. Because incremental change is still change. It's still progress.
Here's the thing with Bernie. Bernie Sanders was, in my opinion, right about a lot. He was right about the economic platform. He was right about healthcare. He was right, and in many ways, I think much more right than Obama was and Hillary was. However, what Bernie has now done is endorsed a whole host of people who are going to set the Democratic Party on fire and make it unelectable. Not this year, because this year they're going to get elected. But much like Trump is destroying the Republican Party, and once Trump is gone, the Republican Party will be gone, he's destroying the Democratic Party. I think this is all part of Bernie wanting Mamdani to run against Schumer next year in the primary.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I think this is about Bernie trying to create as many allies for himself in the Senate Democratic caucus. And I think the fact that Bernie Sanders will never get elected as majority leader because he's not a Democrat and all of his fellow senators
not right.
Him. But this is how he's going to govern. This is how he's going to rule from behind the scenes. Yeah. He is not a Democrat, friends. And yet an attempt to take over the Democratic Party. My attitude is great. If you want to take over the Democratic Party, fantastic. You might want to join the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have a problem with people trying to take over the Democratic Party, but you might want to join the party. I also will say that these DSA people have never left their little orbits where they've spoken to
guys, please go on YouTube and watch the highlights from the 2019 DSA National Convention. Please go watch this and you will see the fragility of these people is so insane. It's like, I can't. Please just go watch it. It's like 23 minutes long. Go watch it for yourself. It is the funniest shit you've ever heard. But it's also kind of like crazy. I'm like, these are the people. This is them.
Yeah.
They're like, it's like a victim competition constantly.
Constantly. And there's a reason why Bernie had zero support. I shouldn't say zero, very little support from African Americans or Latinos or women.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Oh yeah.
It is. I shouldn't say women. They're young white affluent women who did support him. But look, the reality here is that I love Vermont. It is a beautiful, wonderful state. It is not reflective of the country. It's just not.
Yeah.
And Zohran Mamdani, quite frankly, I hope he gets his ass handed to him today, because this whole campaign has been run by throwing under the bus things like interracial marriage, things like the biggest Jewish community outside of Israel, all so that Zohran Mamdani can get his preferred candidates elected, not on issues where everybody agrees, Medicare for all, unrigged economy, no, on Israel. And by the way, you look at people who are, Dan Goldman's no firebrand in Israel.
No.
he's no, but it doesn't matter. He's been portrayed as this crazy, Netanyahu clone, right, which is insane.
Well, because unfortunately, the way that this goes is like, if you don't define yourself on these things, they'll define you for you. Yeah. And I mean, like the craziest thing, I mean, did you see what happened to Dan Goldman the other day with the coffee shop?
Yeah, a coffee shop would not serve Dan Goldman. Would not serve him, refunded him the money and said that he's not welcome.
Took a picture of him, and he was like shocked by the whole thing. He's like, I had a lovely interaction with her. I couldn't understand. And like, they refunded my money. He's like, they were so nice. They let my daughter use the bathroom. And he's like, so I, bought a coffee or whatever. And I left. And then whomever it was, like, took a picture of him, put it online, refunded his money through the little iPad thing, and was like, we don't want you here. And he was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, Michelle and I live in New York City, so we could tell you this, friends. My subway's still not safe. The guy who was jerking off on my street corner as my son walks to school every day is still there. My streets, the storefronts on Broadway are still empty. Like, you're the mayor of New York.
That's been a problem for a very long time. Just so people know, like, yeah, no, I just want to say, just so people know, like, I mean, in some of these main thoroughfares, there's just been like empty storefront after empty storefront. And this has been a problem for many, many years. And part of it's the rent, right? And some of it's because if, not filling some of these things, landlords get write-offs and all kinds of other things. But it's a real problem for communities, and not just in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, Queens, in all 5 boroughs. And this is, a big concern of people in our communities.
What is the mayor of New York concerning himself with? Congress. How about you solve the problems that you were elected to solve first? Nobody's elected you to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. If you want to run for federal office and focus on that to the exclusion of everything else, God bless. Then go ahead and primary Chuck Schumer. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I also just want to do it.
Sorry, Julie. I also just want to say, like, as this city has flaws and it has problems and there's things, I mean, just like any city anywhere in the United States of America, this is also a wonderful city of wonderful people. And it's a beautiful city. And, there's a reason why I have put down roots here and spent the last 23 years living here. And we want people who come in and will make things better here. And again, to your point, Julie, like, I think the thing that has really just kind of been baffling to me is that someone came in to be mayor, who, by the way, I voted for Mamdani. I didn't want to, at first, and I decided to last minute. Because I was like, you know what, maybe let's give him a chance. I'm going to give him a chance. And then within 6 months, he's like all up in the congressional races. I can't remember a time in all of the years that I've lived here of this happening. Like this overt, you know what I mean? Like this, like kind of in your face, especially with primarying.
If you want to be a kingmaker on the city council because you're trying to push your city agenda through and people are being obstructionist, I'm all for it. Go for it. But this isn't about that. This is not about that at all.
Yeah.
The funding that he's getting for, whatever federal funding he needs to move the city along, he'd be getting irrespective of who's there. In fact, he'd be getting a lot more if the incumbents were there because they've got seniority. So it's not about that. I see Laura Manzione in the Substack live chat saying, I'm disappointing you greatly. I'm Mamdani. My only question for you is, Laura, and I mean this truly, I'm not trying to be snarky here. Do you live in New York? Because if you lived in New York, you'd understand how little has changed since he's been mayor. It just has. And
not to mention, like, this isn't about like Jews having their feelings hurt. Like, there is an actual statistical and data proven rise in anti-Semitic violence against Jewish people. It's real and massive. And people, I mean, every Jewish person I know is like reaching out to me privately being like, I'm so scared. I'm freaked out. I feel like I can't say anything because there's like, anytime I do, there's like a mob of people coming at me and they call me all kinds of horrible names. And like, you're going through that today.
I'm going to keep it. Listen, it is impossible. Friends, come after me all you want. It is impossible to hurt my feelings. I spent 10 years at Fox News as one of the few token Dems there. Believe me, it is impossible to come at me. Like I walk through life letting it all I mean, I'm the definition of Taylor Swift. Shake it off. Like, don't care. And you're absolutely right, Ms. Banks. There is a ton more anti-Semitic violence. New York has gone through the roof in New York. And meanwhile, the mayor of New York is calling people who contribute to AIPAC monsters. Now, listen, I hate AIPAC. I hate them. I do not like them. I think they've been hijacked by Donald Trump's donors. I think they are following Benjamin Netanyahu off the cliff. I think they're bad for both Israel and American Jews. For all those reasons, I do not like them. I do not dehumanize anybody by calling them monsters for participating in the democratic small d process. You do not call the tens of thousands of people who are your own constituents monsters.
Yep. And, you know, I have to say, like, I really have been still sort of optimistic about Mamdani. I have been optimistic. My husband's been very optimistic, way more so than I have been. And it was what is happening in New York 13, which is my congressional district, that put me over the edge. I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. And what's fascinating, friends, is that there's a district where he's not playing. There's a district where he's not playing. And that district is my district, District 12. It is the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side, down through Chelsea on the west. And I don't know how far, I think just down to Murray Hill or something on the east side. Anyway, the point is, it is a deeply, deeply Jewish district. Why, would you wonder, is Zora Mamdani not playing in District 12? If you have a point to make it. There is a woman running in the district who is just as wackadoodle as Chevalier and also hates Israel. But why is Zora Mamdani not playing here? Because he knows he can't win. And he doesn't want to take the L. So it's not about ideology. It's about taking over.
And he's using the excuse that Gracie Mansion is in that district as the reason why.
So what?
And I'm like,
so what?
Why was that? Why would that matter?
Why would that matter? So what?
Yeah.
Okay. And
the whole thing is just I'm so disillusioned by it all. And then to bring that back to like what's going on with Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, you know, don't take this Tucker being angry at the Republican Party as like somehow he's now aligned with the left or that he's anti-fascist or any of these things. Like he's going to run to the right of all of this. He's going to run to the right of MAGA. And I could be wrong here, but I think Tucker Carlson's going to run for president.
I agree. Joshy Dragon, you asked me who I supported in District 12. I'm going to tell you, and I did not intend to necessarily support him, but this has all put me over the edge. I voted for Michael Asher, and I'll tell you why I voted for Michael Asher, to stick it to Zora Mamdani, because that's the kind of member he wants least of all. Because I am deeply concerned about what's going to get elected in the district to the north of us, where Michelle is, to the district to the south of us, where currently Dan Goldman's district. Nope. I was not going to vote for. This was not necessarily somebody I was going to vote for, but I
will say though, I know Micah. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, and I ran into Michael Asher on the street. Michelle knows this. I was walking up to Zabar's, which, if you know New York, is a very famous place in New York. My son was sick. He wanted some, or he wasn't sick. He had gotten braces, so he couldn't eat anything because his teeth were hurting. So I had to walk to Zabar's and get him some chicken noodle soup. If you are ever anywhere on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, go visit Zabar's. It's a landmark. And on my way to Zabar's, who do I see standing outside of Fairway but shaking hands? But Michael Asher. And I went up to him.
That and Fairway are the places to be in the hood.
Yeah. He's shaking hands, campaigning, don't know him at all, never met him before. Michelle knows him, I don't. I went up to him, and I'd already voted early because I knew I was going to be in Boston today. And he asked, he's like, hey, can I hope I can have your support. I said, you already did. My husband and I both voted for you. And I said, and thank you for standing up for the Jews. That's how sad it's gotten, that I have to thank somebody for standing up for the Jews, not standing up for Israel, friends. Not about Israel, standing up for the Jews.
Here.
Tremendous anti-Semitism happening in the city. My husband, lifelong Catholic, altar boy, 12 years of Catholic school, goes to church every Sunday, not a Jew. He voted for Michael Lasher because he's standing up for the Jews, not for Israel, for the Jews.
Yeah. Listen, I'm an atheist, and I think I would vote for Micah, if not for George in that district.
And by the way, I love George. This has nothing to do with George or not George,
Well, you have to be strategig because there's two front runners, and you have to like, where can you make the biggest difference? And it's, and Micah, his mother was the president of the West Side Democrats. It was the Community Free at the time club that I was a vice president of, and Micah was on the board, and I was on the board with him. And, he's now my assembly member. Really nice guy, really, really nice person. He's very like part of the machine. I mean, I told you this early on. I was like, Micah's part of the machine. He's part of the whole, like, get in line, do all the right things, work for the right people, and you'll be crowned. And which drives me nuts. I hate that shit. But given the circumstances, what's that?
I do too. I agree.
Yeah. I was like, but given the circumstances, you kind of just have to do what you're going to do,
Okay, Nick Lento, the best way to stand up for world Jewry is to stand up for non-Zionist Israel. Okay, I know you're not Jewish, Nick, so let me explain something to you. If there's a non-Zionist Israel, that means from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That means that no Jews will be left alive in Israel. And until the Russian government wants to give me my apartment back in Moscow, and until the Egyptian government and the Iranian governments and the Iraqi governments and the Yemeni governments want to welcome back the millions of Jews that they all expelled after 1948 and 1956, and until the nice people living in Berlin want to vacate their apartments to give it back to the Jews that had to vacate their apartments when they were shipped off to Auschwitz, there's no other fucking place for Jews to go. And by the way, my friend Tammy had a very good observation about this. Israel has been Zionist/Jewish since 1948. After a while, you got to stop referring to it as Zionist in the same way that we don't refer to us as abolitionists anymore. The Civil War is over. We're not into abolition anymore because slavery doesn't exist anymore. Okay? It is a Jewish state, and it has been for 80 years. Almost. What are you looking to do with the Jews who are there now? The millions upon millions of Jews who are living there now. What are you looking to do with them? Where are you looking to send them back? To Germany, which they escaped?
Poland?
To the former Soviet Union? To Poland? To the Soviet Union, which my family escaped because we were Jews? To the Middle East? Half of the Jews living in Israel are from the Middle East. They are not white. They are not these European colonial settlers. They got there in 1948 and 1956, when all of these Arab countries expelled the Jewish diaspora, which had been living there since the Babylonian fucking exile, 3,000 years. And not any Jews left anymore. Like none in these countries. You think the mullahs in Iran are going to welcome them back and say, go ahead, reestablish the great thriving Jewish community that you had from about 3000 AD, BC, to 1979? You think the Egyptians are going to say, no problem, come on back? I know you've been living here since before Christ. Alexandria, Virginia, a hub of Jewish learning, going back to the days of before Cleopatra. But no, it's okay. Come back. I know we kicked you guys all out in 1956. But come on back. Where do you think they're supposed to go? They're there. It's a reality. Can I please go to Moscow, where I'm banned from setting foot right now, and knock on the door of the apartment where my family had lived and say, hey, this used to belong to us. Could we have it back now, please? You think they're going to give it back to me? Where's my fucking right of return? I'm so sick of this shit. You guys, I'm sorry. I know I'm losing, but I'm so sick of this shit. It makes me want to cry because it is coming from such a place of ignorance. It is coming from such a place of ignorance. What about the fucking genocide that was committed against the Jews? Why aren't you boycotting the fucking Germans? Why aren't you boycotting the Poles? Why aren't you boycotting the Ukrainians? I love Ukraine. I hope they defeat the fucking Russians all day, every day. But you know how many people they killed? You know how many Jews they killed? You're going to stop telling them that they should stop getting our weapons because of that? The Egyptians, who we give more money to than anybody besides Israel, the Saudis? Are you kidding me? Until recently, you couldn't set foot in Saudi Arabia if you were Jewish. Banned. Banned. For no other, not Israeli, Jewish. Really? Yep. Why don't you stop? How many of you are going to boycott England because of the potato famine in Ireland? How many Irish people they killed? How many of you are going to boycott France because it is a Catholic country and they exterminated their Protestant Huguenots back in the day? Come on. At some point, do you not realize what this is about? It's not about Israel. It's about the Jews, the same people that everybody's been going after for millennia, plural. I can't. You know what? If you're going to comment, at least know your history or at least provide solutions. If Israel is not a Zionist country anymore, that means the Jews who live there have to go. And my question to you is, where do you want them to go? And by the way, Nick Lento, who I've known a very long time, I don't know where you're squatting in New Jersey, but I guarantee you're squatting in the land of the Lenape. And if some Lenape person knocked on your door and said, hey, Nick, get the hell out of my house, you're sitting on my land, what are you going to do? Give it back to them? Seriously, are you going to give it back to them? I just, you know.
I know. Like, you know, my friend Anna, who's the granddaughter and great-granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, her mother has been trying to get their land back in Poland for years. And it's a lost cause because their family were literally ripped from their homes and thrown into the ghettos before they were then ripped from the ghettos and put on trains.
And do you know why it's a lost cause, Michelle? Because there's a very famous story about Jews who survived Auschwitz in Poland. And they went back to the little village that they were from, having survived Auschwitz.
Yeah.
I mean, the statistical chance of surviving Auschwitz was next to nothing. They survived, and they went home. And you know what happened to them? They were murdered by the Poles who occupied their houses because they didn't want to give it back.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Julie. I'm really am.
I'm sorry that I'm getting, actually, I'm not sorry that I'm getting emotional.
No,
I'm so sorry. So sick of the fucking moralizing on both the right and the left about this. The right has this, the right is just explicitly anti-Semitic. The Jews will not replace us.
Right.
You know,
right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the other part of them are like, Israel. I'm like, you don't support Israel. Stop. This is about evangelicals and like the whatever.
Listen, there's evangelicals like Mike Huckabee, who I've known also a very long time, supports Israel purely because this is part of the fucking apocalyptic prophecy that
the rapture and all that crazy.
The rapture happens, and you Jews back there, and then Jesus will come back and kill all the Jews anyway. So like that's just explicitly anti-Semitic. But the part on the left that pisses me off so much is this virtue signaling bullshit that you're wrapping yourselves in, friends. This bullshit about here, you're opposing genocide. No, you're not. If you were opposing genocide, you'd be fucking marching on the Saudi Arabian embassy right now. If you're opposing genocide, you'd be fucking marching on the Russian consulate in New York right now. If you're opposing genocide, you'd be fucking marching on the Iranian consulate right now. You'd be burning down the fucking White House because they're about to give $300 billion with a B dollars to the Iranian regime that is murdering its own people and all of us around the world.
Yeah. They're literally hanging women from cranes for walking outside with their hair
shut. If you were real progressives, you'd ask yourself a question. Hey, as a lesbian, transgender, gay, unveiled, straight woman, I'm going to show up in Gaza right now and I'm going to wave my fucking rainbow flag. What do you think is going to happen to you? That's who you're supporting, Hamas? The people who throw gay people off the fucking roof? You could support the people of Gaza, but by the way, there's going to be a march this week by people in Gaza in opposition to Hamas. How many of you are marching through the streets of New York right now in support of them? They're going to be killed the minute they start marching in Gaza.
Oh my God, yeah.
They're going to be killed, not by Israeli bombs. They're going to be killed by Hamas, because the last time they did that, they were all murdered, and they're still doing it. How many of you, in solidarity with them, are going to show up in Times Square? Not one. Not one. The mayor of New York, where's he on this? This man who got elected on the backs of progressives, where is he on this? I mean, it is insane to me when we have so many issues that unite us. So many issues. I mean, there's income inequality in this country that is through the fucking roof. We have a trillionaire who just murdered millions of people around the world by gutting USAID, by stealing all of our information. He's got everything on us, our social security numbers, our medical records, everything. You name it, he's got it. He has made $1 trillion on the backs of taxpayer-funded contracts, because everything he's ever built was on the backs of taxpayer-funded contracts, whether it was money for Tesla, for their Fremont plant, or for their technology development, whether it's SpaceX, whether it's the Boring Company, everything. His trillion dollars is on our backs. Meanwhile, people are dying in the gutter. People are literally starving to death on the streets of New York. And what is our mayor doing? He's not talking about that. He's not talking about that. He's talking about Israel. To divide us. To divide us. And what have I had to do the rest of the past week? Get into fights with people with whom I agree on 99.9% of these issues, but I will not support you, and I will not vote for you, and I will sit out this fucking race if I hear you say anti-Semitic shit. For the first time in my life, I will not vote Democrat at the federal level if you support this anti-Semitic shit, and it is anti-Semitic. It is. It is not anti-Israel. It is anti-Semitic. You're voting for a woman who opposes interracial marriage? Are you fucking kidding me? Because she opposes Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's okay for you? Michelle, how many friends do you have in interracial marriages? I have many, many.
I couldn't even count.
And I'm supposed to vote.
Interfaith, interracial, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to vote for this woman because the progressive mayor of New York says, don't pay no attention to that. Don't worry about that. The woman that called Kamala Harris, motherfuck Kamala Harris.
And called Joe Biden a rapist.
Yeah, the woman who called Joe Biden a rapist. I'm not sure who Joe Biden raped. I know there's a woman sitting in Moscow right now who claimed that he sexually assaulted her. But aside from that, I've never heard of Joe Biden raping anybody. She called Joe Biden a rapist, but it's okay. We're supposed to sit there and forget all of that, according to Zora Mandani. Why? Well, because you know what? She doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu. Neither does anybody. Who the hell likes him?
I know. That's right. It's like, that's the thing that I was talking about AIPAC earlier. It was like, we have to like call this shit out before we can even get to the point where we were like, yes, we also don't like these things. The Gary Kasparov, sorry, wrote about this a couple weeks ago, right? And he was like, MAGA fundraises off the DSA, and the DSA fundraises off MAGA, and around and around and around and around and around we go. And it's not going to stop. And the thing that's so crazy about it is, like, while the oligarchs like Elon Musk and others, are hoarding all of the cash and all the power and all the resources for themselves, and we're down here fighting with each other. And to your point, Julie, these things are made to divide us. The extremes sort of, take the more moderate people like Dan Goldman, and attach them to this oligarchical, these oligarchical figures, when it could be the furthest thing from the truth. Even the rich people can't touch these guys, because Dan Goldman's very, very wealthy. And still, He's a lot closer to us than he is to them. And we're all sitting here fighting with each other. And we're being fed algorithms. I mean, that's the other piece of this too, is we're being fed ideas and messages and lies through the algorithm the same way the Russians did in 2015, 2016, the same way they're still doing, the same way the Saudis and the Qataris and the Chinese and all these people are waving flames into our algorithms and telling us how to think and showing us content that agrees with us to make it worse. Usually I love primary day, Julie. I don't love it this time. I say it. I really, really don't love it. You know, and there's a guy running for assembly in my district as well, Eli Northrup, who is part of the Bernie coalition. I've met the guy. I thought he was fine. I met him last time he ran. But this time, I mean, and this is a separate issue, his biggest donors are like FanDuel and like all the gambling companies. And I'm like, okay, no. I hate that shit too. I'm so tired of turning on every sporting event I watch is presented by FanDuel or you know, whatever the King thing or whatever it is. All these online betting apps. I hate it.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, can we just fight the bad guys? That's what I'd love to just fight the bad guys.
I'd love to fight the bad guys, but unfortunately for too many people, the bad guys have become the Jews.
Exactly.
Not Benjamin Netanyahu, the Jews. Because when you start talking about from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Free from whom, friends? The Jews? It's not Benjamin Netanyahu. If it were Benjamin Netanyahu, all these same people would fly to Tel Aviv right now and join the protests against Netanyahu that are taking place every Sunday with millions of Israelis marching. That's not what your problem is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what your problem is. Any more than your problem is getting big money out of politics. If it were, you would be supporting a guy who claims that Jewish PACs came after him while ignoring the fact that they didn't, but pro-Palestinian super PACs got him elected. Millions of dollars spent in that district by only one candidate or on behalf of one candidate.
And this is where in 2028, let's say we have a Tucker Carlson running on the Republican line, because I think that someone like him is much more likely to be nominated than a Marco Rubio or someone like that.
And this, yeah,
I get nervous of the horseshoe. I get nervous of the left finding the right on the other side because they're saying, you know, different versions of the same thing. Because Nick Fuentes, I consume a lot of Nick Fuentes, although like not recently, and I watch it so that I know what's going on over there and I know what he's talking about. And he talks a lot about the same issues we are: affordability, housing crisis, groceries, gas prices, all of these things that we care about on economic populism. There's a reason why it resonates. And also Israel, and also the Jews. And it's all on the other side of this horseshoe. And it makes me very nervous about how many people, if given a choice between Joseph and Tucker Carlson in 2028, I wonder how many people on the left would vote for Tucker. Like, that's the stuff that makes me really, really nervous.
Yep.
And I don't think that I'm out of bounds to make that an example.
Because all Tucker needs to say is that Israel is awful and the curse of the world and all the other things that have been said. I mean, this is the other part that just is incredible to me. Don't you guys get that for years now they're just using words like AIPAC? But for decades, generations, it used to be that there's some mysterious Jew pulling puppet strings. Like I should have brought to this the old Nazi propaganda of the big nose Jew pulling the puppet strings. And whoever, right?
Yeah. I remember having to go when I made an ad for International Holocaust Remembrance Day a number of years ago with Anna, and Anna was just sending me page after page after page of all of this like old 1930s anti-Jewish propaganda. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is horrendous. And she's like, yeah. And you start to see similarities. I watched some of the World War II docuseries that you didn't want me to tell your husband about. There's a whole episode kind of about this.
Yeah.
I know, sorry. But there is a whole episode about this. And I remember, I mean, like, again, just kind of intellectually, we all know this, at least in my generation. And like, but I looked at my husband kind of taking this in again, I think with knowing and seeing what's going on right now. And he was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah. And by the way, Rum Runner 360, this host, I assume he is conflating hatred for modern Israel politics with hatred for all Jewish people. No. I also hate modern Israeli politics. If you're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu and his band of incredibly racist, Jewish supremacist leaders or cohorts or wherever the hell they are, awful, the worst, awful. But there's a difference between opposing them in the same way there's a difference between opposing Donald Trump, which we all do here, I hope.
Yeah.
And at the same time, not believing that the United States has a right to exist because Donald Trump is our president.
Right.
That's the difference. From the river, from ocean to ocean, the United States will be free of Donald Trump. Fine. From ocean to ocean, the United States is going to be free of people who live in it. That's different. That means all of us have to go somewhere or die or fall into the oceans. Where are you going? I don't know where your family's from, but you think you're going to get your old house back in Ireland or Italy or wherever your family comes from? They're not giving it back to you. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying from ocean to ocean, from the Pacific, from sea to shining sea, the United States should be free of Donald Trump. Agreed.
Tyranny, fascism, all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. From the river to the sea, Israel needs to be free of Benjamin Netanyahu and Itamar Ben-Gvir and all of these other, and Bezalel Smotrich and all of these other horrible, terrible, I don't even have the words for them, people. Yes. There's an election coming up this fall that hopefully will accomplish that. But that's not what people are saying. They're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And what I'm going to say to you right now is you have to live with the fact that there is a country called Israel. It exists. It has existed since 1948. And there are millions of Jews living in it who you're either supporting dumping into the sea, which is what Hamas's charter says, literally drive them into the sea. That is truly, literally what Hamas's charter says. Leave them all dead. Or you want to send them where? Where are you planning on sending them back to?
Right.
I mean, we don't need to belabor this, but when Tucker quits the GOP, he's quitting the GOP so that he can in its current iteration so that he can rebuild it in his own image.
Right. While also taking advantage of the decades and decades of infrastructure, resources, like the institution itself. It's the same thing with the Democratic Party, right? I mean, like there's been year after year after year of building an infrastructure for the party. And why build something from scratch when you can just stage a coup and take it over? When all of these things already exist and remake it in your own eyes. And I don't know how today's going to go. I really don't. In New York City, in our primaries,
we will be live, however.
Yes. Yes. You want to? I think we're going to go live, right? At like 9:15. Yeah.
We're going to go live
tonight. Yeah. So I'll schedule that when we're done here. So you guys will get an alert. So we're going to go live tonight at 9:15. And obviously it's not just Democratic primaries that are happening in New York today. It's also Republican primaries. There is a Republican primary in particular, I'm personally interested in. That is New York's 21st congressional district. This is Elise Stefanik's district, which, you know, she was going to be the ambassador to the United Nations, and then she got pulled back and no, sorry, honey, you can't do that. She was going to run for governor, and then Trump, oddly enough, made friends with Mamdani, which then kind of blew her whole talking point out of the water. And so she decided, just, I'm going to resign and I'm not going to run again and all this stuff. And so I will say, having grown up in that area of northern New York, it's geographically very big. It's an interesting district in the fact that it's very Republican, but it has never elected a crazy person. Not really. I mean, like, Elise Stefanik is deplorable in her own right, but she's in Harvard educated. She was a Bush staffer. Before that was Bill Owens, was a Democrat for two terms. Before that was John McHugh, was friends with my parents, Republican. He was appointed as Secretary of the Army by Barack Obama. So I say all that to say there's a large bunch of independents in the district. However, there are the two Republicans running in that district to take over for Elise Stefanik. One is kind of like a mainstream MAGA Republican person, and one of them is a crazy person. He owns a sticker company, and he in like Amsterdam, New York or something, somewhere near there, and Donald Trump has endorsed him, and he is nuts. And I feel like what happens in that primary today will be extremely telling as to at least where places like this are going to go. Are they going to go further right into Crazy Town, or are they going to stay the line with more establishment people? I don't know. But I will be very, very interested to see what happens, in addition, obviously, to the Democratic primaries across the state. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Sounds good. Okay. On that note, we will see everybody tonight. And I will leave you just with this one thing. I believe somebody said in this chat, one of the 2 chats on either Substack or on YouTube. Yes, GWB. Tucker Carlson is a podcaster. He's not a credible boogeyman. He's not likely capable of organizational activity beyond shitposting. I remember we said that about a certain reality show hosting Donald John Trump. So
yep. I think Tucker Carlson's a whole hell of a lot more capable than Donald Trump ever was.
And a lot smarter, and has a better infrastructure that he does not have to build from the ground up, because he's going to inherit much of Trump's. On that note, folks, thank you for your time today, and we will see you later on tonight. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.